welcome back to County Gains News Media. Today we have another news talk from NEWSTALK Radio, okay? This one is called Hospitality Closures. Ireland has lost 2 pubs every week since 2006. So, massive loss, okay? Of course, Ireland being known as one of the biggest drinking countries in the world. People understand that we have a massive industry for hospitality, tourism, but also, guys, the entertainment industry when it comes to drinking and, all that sort of sales when it comes to alcohol. This is pretty unbelievable. Of course, it's probably not the worst thing in the world because, we probably drink too much as a country, okay? But to lose 2 pubs every week, guys, that's insane. And I read a study that over the last 4 or 5 years, or over the last 2 years, we've lost 200 pubs. And over the last 4 or 5 years, we've lost like 600. So a wild number, guys. That trend is going to keep going because those big, massive corporations just want to kind of take over everything, in my personal opinion. And the kind of, mom pop shop or whatever they call it, the sort of, regular pub that we know and love, with the trad music and all that in it, is probably going to be gone in the next, 20 years. But I also think, guys, that they charge astronomical prices because of their overheads. Only the really big pubs are going to be remaining. The smaller pubs, like I said, that are owned by the local mom and dad or whatever, they're going to go extinct, guys, because a pint of Guinness has gone up loads, and obviously, guys, people don't want to be paying exorbitant prices for these drinks. Okay, like if you can get a can in a shop for €1.50, €2, and they charge you flipping, $7.50 in the pub, it's obviously insane numbers, guys. Let me know your thoughts, drop a comment, and let's get it, guys.
That one of the things Ireland is most associated with, particularly among tourists, is the Irish pub. But new figures out this morning show over 2,000 public houses have closed down since 2005. The stats are from the Drinks Industry Group of Ireland. Economist and Associate Professor Emeritus at DCU, Anthony Foley, has been analysing the findings. He joins me now. Good morning to you, Tony. 2,054 fewer pubs now than in 2005. Not great for a country that's associated with the Irish pub and the Irish land of 1,000 welcomes.
No, although we could put the slightly optimistic spin on it and say there's still almost 6,600, because that 2,000 decline is from 8,600 in 2005 to the just under 6,600 at present. So yes, it's a serious loss in terms of not only an economic infrastructure for small villages and local rural areas, but it's also a loss in terms of the social impact that they would have as gathering places, meeting places.
The social impact less, I would say, because obviously people meet in different things now. People do jiu-jitsu, they do tennis, you can do other things than drinking, okay? That's kind of like an old man kind of pub type of thing. But definitely the business aspect, guys, where people, it's like their whole livelihood is going to be gone, so.
It's a continuing decline over that period. Now, there have been some particularly bad years. You won't be surprised to hear that in terms of years with over 200 losses in a particular year were 2008, 9 and 10, the Troika austerity period. And then
we're basically, we had a downturn recession basically.
And 2020 was also over.
2020, of course, guys, what happened, the lockdown and stuff.
It from 2015 to 19, where there was only an annual loss of 11. But in more recent years, 2019 to 23, back up over 100. So spread over.
It's going up and down, it's fluctuating, but it's more loss than gain. And people are kind of more into fitness now, guys. People don't want to be going to like an old man's pub and sitting around the place, enjoying their socializing with their friends like that. People want to be out in town, tennis, climbing walls. What do people do now, guys? Climbing, walls, and there's so many more hobbies nowadays,
Over that long period. And of course, primarily non-Dublin pubs, that over the same period, Dublin had a small decline of 3%, whereas the rest of the country lost the 2032, which was a 25% reduction.
But just to do the back of the envelope maths on it there, so over the last 18 years, it's averaging 114 pubs closing every year. So to be even more basic than that, we can say 2 pubs a week in Ireland closed down.
Yes, that's right, yeah. 2 pubs a week in Ireland closed down over that entire 18-year period.
It's quite a bit of pubs, guys. I noticed, like, when I'm driving along the back roads to Mayo or to Limerick or whatever, there's so many empty pubs, and you start to realize like, oh, that actually used to be like a really big pub. Now it's just completely derelict, you know.
And of course, particular counties are more.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. You mentioned there Dublin versus outside Dublin. Are there counties where more pubs are closing? Or is it rural areas
Obviously.
where more close down?
Yeah, it's more the West and the Midlands.
The old West by.
And the East has the lower decline. The highest decline in this report over the up to 2023 period was Limerick with 35.6%. So almost 4 in 10 pubs in Limerick declined over the period, or disappeared over the period. Roscommon is second, 31.9%. And then comes several counties which are just above 30% or at 30%, Cork, Tipperary, Laois, Clare, Westmeath. And then following them around 25%, Mayo, Offaly, Leitrim, Longford, Donegal. And at the other end of the scale, you've got Dublin, as we said, with a 2.8% decline, Meath 6.7%, Wicklow 8.9%, and everyone in between above 10%.
But those
so
those counties would also be where it would be more expensive to do business.
It would be in some cases, but there's also the other economic factors that you've got in the East: massive growth in population, younger population.
That's true, guys. You know, obviously, you know, setting up a pub in the West, okay, is not going to be as expensive as setting up a pub in Dublin. Okay, Dublin's overheads are going to be massive, but also in Dublin they have the footfall, they have the people, they have the culture. There's a younger population, you know, way younger than the West. So yeah, it's very, very straightforward how, you know, the West is going to suffer a lot more than the East in Ireland, and that's kind of how it always is, guys. The West always suffers in Ireland, like the Southwest, the Midlands, you know, and the Northwest always suffer more than the East Coast, way more. Okay.
More concentrated population, and maybe starting off a smaller penetration of pubs per bundle of population than would have been the case in the rest of the country, because obviously that concentration of pubs reflects a pattern reflecting population many days gone, as it were. So you go back to the 1900s, the population would have been more focused on the western part of the country.
Oh, wow.
It would have been more focused in rural areas. And then as those populations change, we get this, as it were, large number of pubs which can survive in particular areas. And one thing about that particular period, we might think of it as, sure, that's no great surprise we'd lose so many businesses because that was COVID, Troika, austerity period and so on. But also over that full period, the economy performed very well. So, for example, employment increased by 36% over the same period. The volume of household expenditure increased by 45%, population went up by 28%. But over that whole period, the total alcohol volume that we consumed declined by 4%.
Yeah, I always thought because people stayed at their house, they drank more, but probably not, guys. People were kind of sick of just drinking, sitting at their house, you know, being locked down. And
average alcohol consumption declined by 26%. So the alcohol market in total has performed much worse than the overall economy over that period.
Maybe because people don't want to drink as much.
Oh, absolutely. There's a number of reasons why.
Everyone wants to get fit, guys. County Gains, check it out, man. People are doing different hobbies, like I said, climbing, running, jogging with a J, you know, jogging, and just doing a whole bunch of different activities, guys. People like to, you know, they like to go fishing, you know, farming. You know, there's a bunch more stuff to do, guys. You can pick up women in the grocery store now. You know, you don't have to go to the pub. People have Instagram to pick up women. Okay, you don't have to go to the pub to talk to the ladies. You know what I'm saying, guys? Like, there's a lot of different ways that social media is taking over the relationship atmosphere.
Things have happened. And as I say, average consumption has dropped by 26% over that period. And one of the things that would affect the number of pubs declining would be precisely, as you would say, market changes. That people have expectations. They have different consumer expectations. They might want better quality pubs than a small rural pub which simply provides alcohol. Maybe they're looking for food, looking for entertainment, so looking for the kind of services that the bigger pubs in larger urban areas would be able to provide. So consumers have changed their attitude, even what they drink. So if you want a selection of craft beers, it's going to be very difficult for a small rural pub to provide the required spread on a commercial basis, but obviously a larger town pub or urban pub would be able to meet those different consumer expectations.
Right.
And of course as well, we've got the regulation change that drinking and driving is frowned upon. It wouldn't have been as frowned upon in the past. So all of that has an impact on demand for the pubs.
The fact that we have 2,000 pubs closing down over the last 20 years, is that crisis or is that levelling out? Because I can think of some rural towns where every second business was a pub, and maybe this is just a bit of normality and level.
That's true, guys. Like I know some places, like even in the city, any city of the west, Roscommon, whatever, Limerick, Sligo, whatever, these places. Like every flipping half a flipping, foot, there was another pub, guys. There's just pubs everywhere. So that's probably why they were probably oversaturated the market, and then now it's kind of slowly decreasing down to its natural level.
Leveling out the market.
Yes, it would be. Now, again, we have to decide what's the market. Do we leave everything to the market? So as we've already mentioned, the market changes in terms of its expectations, the numbers of people and so on, what they're looking for. So yes, there would be an element of levelling out. But it would also be a case where, do we, as it were, continue that over the next 20 years? Would there be another 2,000 pubs gone or 1,000 or whatever, and then the impact of that? As you're probably aware, the government has a number of schemes to try and offset that from a social perspective. So there's one scheme which supports pubs in rural areas to reinvent themselves in terms of community facilities, that they provide facilities for book clubs, sports clubs and so on. So there's also the social impact, but from a commercial point of view, just boldly looking at the market, yes, that decline reflects market circumstances, and in your terminology, coming more into line with market circumstances.
Yes, okay. I'm way over time. Can I just ask you very briefly, would a VAT cut help those 2,000 pubs that are shutting down, or would they have closed anyway?
A VAT cut in terms of food services would help them, but a lot of these pubs would not be extensive food companies. They'd be primarily alcohol-based. So an excise reduction would be more useful to them in terms of the preponderance in alcohol serving. But some of those pubs, yes, would have been also providing food, and any reduction in tax improves the commercial viability of enterprises. Because remember, these taxes are basically taking a chunk of money that the customer gives to the pub, and the government then takes it, so it doesn't go to the entrepreneur or the enterprise.
All right, okay. I'm way over time. Tony, thank you very much for joining us. Economist and Associate Professor Emeritus at DCU, Anthony Foley. Now it's 6:26.
Shout out to Anthony Foley. Yeah, it's great, guys. A lot of different features coming in. The economy behind it. Pub drinking is definitely crazy, guys. Look at the top comment here. The publicans price the public out of their pubs. That's a mouthful right there. A lot of P's, a lot of alliteration going on there. It's funny, guys, like literally going to the pub yesterday night, actually. I was in the pub on a Wednesday night. Don't judge me, okay? I was with some friends, okay? Free comedy gig, but it was like $6.70 for a Coors Light, which I'm not cheap. I pay whatever. $6.70 though. You can get a Coors for like, dude, it's like €2. So very, very extremely priced beverages. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I love you all. Drop a comment. Stop drinking so much. Get out there and lift, and subscribe to my channel for some more motivation on lifting, guys. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.